liberty, and justice for all.
Alrighty. Call the meeting to order. Let's see, agenda approval. I doubt there's any changes.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Tom.
I'll second.
Thank you, Steve. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Public input, I don't see any public here, so we'll go through that. Consent agenda. I don't think there was any changes. I didn't see any changes in that.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Shar.
I'll second.
Thank you, Steve. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Old business, doesn't look like there's any old business. New business, building assessment proposal.
We've been having conversations when D.W. Jones was here. They put together a list of what they thought were potential capital needs. And I have been working to try and get a list of repairs that we can do under the Small Cities program with the Regency apartment. I want to try and capitalize on the outside resources to the greatest extent possible. And it's really been kind of a challenge. And I know that ICS just did some work for the county board on the heritage because there was a lot of not necessarily understanding where each of the mechanical kinds of features are. So I got together with ICS and asked them if they would be willing to give us a proposal to go through all 4 of the buildings and provide an assessment of where things are at, find what we do know about, when the roofs were replaced, when the windows were replaced, what the mechanical systems look like, so that we can, number one, have one place to have all of this information, and then use it to maximize the repair dollars that we have available for Regency. So I met with them a couple weeks ago and had them provide the proposal, which is in your packet. It's about $1,000 per building, give or take, because some are a little bigger than others, but that's what the proposal is. And I think it's really a good idea, so that we really have a good handle on what the status is of all of these buildings, and then we can look at planning repairs and doing all of the things that we need to do, so.
I have a question. After you've got just a list of things to do, and then is that where you can be your own general contractor and get out bids for work?
We can do that for some of those things. So for Regency in particular, we can piecemeal and get. The challenge with the Small Cities program is that we have to have a licensed contractor and we have to make sure that they pay prevailing wage. Outside of that, we can do independent bids for each of the things if we think that's better, or we could hire a general contractor to kind of oversee the whole thing. But right now, we're having a hard time getting a really good list of everything that should be done. And so, for instance, one of the things that D.W. Jones talked about was the sliding doors. Well, I do know that some of them have been replaced over the last few years. Well, do they need to be replaced because they were incorrectly installed, they're poor quality, or is it just sort of a blanket, we should reinstall those? But that's an eligible cost. So that's why it's like, well, if I could get somebody to look at them and tell me exactly where they're all at, then I could add that in as a potential item for replacement at Regency. So that's really what it sort of started this whole thing. And then I thought, well, it'd be really good to know, because the next person who takes over managing this should have a better understanding of where all of their equipment systems are.
Will they be looking at the garages too at Regency?
They will.
Okay.
Honestly, I think that the garages probably should just be torn down and rebuilt. They are in really poor shape between the garages and externally. And they were, I don't want to say poorly constructed, they were cheaply constructed. And as a result, they didn't really wear that well. So they're gonna look at that and give us an assessment.
Okay.
We can't use the small cities program for those,
Okay.
but I did ask them about taking a look at them and then making an assessment about whether we'd be better off to demolish and replace or try and repair them. And then how long could we get if we repaired them?
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I like this idea of them checking the buildings out, because then we have a professional, you know, somebody that does this for a living,
I agree.
and then we can prioritize what needs to be done and go from there. Because I'm sure there's, I mean, from the last couple of years, I know there's stuff that needs to be done. It's just, what's the most important, and we've got all these other, you know, how do we fill the apartments? I mean, we've got all these things going here, and so, yeah, and I thought the cost was reasonable. You know, like you say, 4 buildings, and I know the meadows are, both of the meadows are obviously larger than Conifer and the Regency, but you put them all together, and you know, other people's views.
I totally agree with you, Ted, and we've done multiple things with ICS, so we have great respect for their work.
Yeah,
I'll move to approve.
thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Steve. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. HRA-EDA disposition policy.
So in an effort, we just did the sales not that long ago of the 7 lots at County Line Estates. And we have the other industrial park property that we're going to be looking at doing something with. And then there's a couple other properties. And we don't really have a good policy, well, we don't have any sort of policy that really talks about how to appropriately dispose of property. So I looked at some other example HRA-EDA kinds of businesses. There's a couple things that, or organizations, there was a couple things that I really wanted to be mindful of, is when we put our EDA hat on, a lot of times the businesses that we're having conversations with don't necessarily want to have their name out there until they're very close to coming to a deal. So part of this policy was, okay, when in the process do we have to provide that information? And it turns out it's not until, we don't have to have the public hearing until we're absolutely ready to sell. So that really, this policy helps to really clarify that. And then talks about 2 ways of how people might be interested in the property that we have available for sale. So it talks about whether or not this organization says we have the lots and here's how we intend to distribute them. We're gonna, do this process, or somebody can come to us and say, hey, I know you have that parcel and I'd be really interested in buying it. And so it really does take both avenues, and then what we do about it and how we ensure that the public gets notified and then has the opportunity to both weigh in, but also if someone is really interested in that property, they can respond to that as well. I developed a draft and then sent it on to the attorney that we've been using for the HRA. So he's already vetted this and made changes to it to make sure that it complies fully with the statute. And so if there's anything specific that you want to talk about, but generally, it's really the policy that we can follow going forward to dispose of any of the property related to either the HRA or the EDA.
I had one question here. It says conveyance have a condition that the developer cannot transfer title to the property within 1 year of purchase without consent of the authority. I was just wondering if, if they got busy right away. Say it was like that land up north, it's gonna be housing. What if they got busy right away and got a house built and it's ready in much less than a year? That means they gotta come to this board to get permission to sell it?
I think that the easiest way, oh. Uh-oh.
We'll wing it.
It timed out and it's requiring Jeff's password and I don't know what it is. So, I'm not sure what to do. So,
Like Shar said, we'll wing it.
I got it in front of me here.
okay, great. In the case of an organization that is, just a single house, pretty easy. Generally, though, what we're looking for is permanent owners. So we're not generally trying to sell the property to people who are going to then turn it really quickly. We did have a developer that bought a number of lots, and we had a conversation with him about, understanding that he is gonna turn those and that it is going to an eventual, permanent owner. So we have ways through a developer agreement to facilitate that kind of component with it.
It's interesting that you brought that up, because it is, I guess if you look at the wording, but really if the contractor or the goose that has bought the individual lot, I mean, once the house is done, if they come to us and say, well, we'd like to put it up for sale, or definitely if it's the developers, I can't see this board saying no. I mean, that's what we want. So, I mean, it's kind of a formality, but
The person bought the lot, it's theirs. They fulfilled,
well, that's the way to look at it too, yeah.
they already fulfilled, they fulfilled that within the first year.
If they built
To
something.
me, this is saying that because we had that, they had to develop, and so if they don't develop within that timeline, that's when they have to come back to the board, or we can do something to get the property back. But they've already fulfilled it, so maybe the wording in this is wrong, but I don't want to have somebody buy something and then have to come back to me, or this board, for permission. We don't own it.
Yeah.
By the way it's written, they have to come back within a year.
So the wording needs to be changed.
What page are you on?
I believe that was on page 5, and then page 4, there is something that within 1 year, date of purchase, develop must devote the property to its intended use. So there's 2 things where it mentions the 1 year.
So,
I don't
Part-
think, I don't think the one on page 4 is quite such a big deal.
Yeah, it's the one on 5 that
Yeah.
kind of says it's gotta be, can't sell it unless there's authority gives permission, which I'm sure they would, but still, it's written that way.
And I think, I think what Shar says makes a good argument, that they've fulfilled their contract, that they've built something.
So part of and this is really under the development piece of that. So, the HRA-EDA has the potential of, providing land with the expectation that something's gonna happen with it. And you're selling it with that expectation, and you're giving the purchaser a year to make that happen. And let's say that things go awry and they are not able to create that development. That's when, before they sell it, if they just have to come in and check, thank you.
Yeah, just so I know know what I'm doing here.
When I woke it up, it had Jeff's thing, and I don't know.
Okay.
But,
Yeah,
but we're
so-
still on for the
We're still
public to hear.
broadcasting. Okay.
The video is there and the audio is there.
Okay.
And so I don't know how to turn it off or do anything, so.
Right.
Because we need to also then be able to handle it for the closed session.
Right,
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me
Yeah.
give him a call quick.
all right.
Jörg probably knows how to do it too.
Oh, yeah, well, the problem is it's signed up under Jeff's
Oh,
name, so
okay.
Mike's gonna contact Jeff.
Yeah, so we just have to have another user, but then he's already got it locked up underneath
Yeah.
his thing, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, so back to this, is that if you're selling a piece of property specifically for bigger development or even housing, and then somebody says it's not gonna work, I'm just gonna sell it and I'm gonna, make a bunch of money on the HRA, that is not really the intent. And so by having them come back and ask before they sell, then maybe the HRA would say, we really want development, so we're gonna take that parcel back, and so we're gonna re-advertise and do development, because that's really what we had intended there. Or we're gonna say, yeah, that's fine, we can resell it. So I think that it provides a public, pulse check to keep that clause in there, to make sure that what you sold the property for had a specific intended use. And if for some reason that use isn't gonna happen, you would want the ability to say, well, that's not fulfilling what we had intended, or it is, and so therefore you can go ahead and sell it. So I do think that it does provide that extra step. In most cases, they're not gonna come back and that's not gonna be an issue. I just think that in certain cases, especially if you're looking at some really big development, and if you provided some less than market value sort of rates to it, that you would really want to be able to say, yeah, no, I think we want it back.
Should we table this and get further clarification?
Sure, absolutely. There's no reason why you have to,
I would like further clarification.
Okay.
okay.
But maybe discuss it just a little bit more
Yeah,
before we table.
absolutely.
Because I was thinking too, but this could also affect properties that we own that have homes on, say a house on it already, or an apartment, or something like that. That's kind of what my question was, is, does this policy also cover those places?
If we would sell them, so the HRA has the ability to keep and own property. The expectation, though, is that you don't become land barons and just accumulate property for the sake of accumulating property. So statute does suggest that you evaluate your property on an annual basis and make sure that the reason that you're keeping the property makes sense, or that you're using it. And this is really mostly vacant property. There's no question about your apartment buildings and that you're using them to their intended purpose. But if you sold them, you would follow this. You would likely put up an RFP, or somebody could just really say that they want the property. This is already developed, so if it's already got something on it, it wouldn't have those same kinds of this is really about bare land and converting it.
Okay.
But we can
So,
get that.
Did I miss that when I left the room to get Mike? That the clause or coming back here doesn't apply to like the person that puts the house up?
Yeah.
You're only talking about bare land?
And we can clarify that, and I will clarify that with the attorney to make sure, but it's, my understanding is just bare land, because that's really, typically an organization like this.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that's fine. An organization like this would accumulate land for a specific development purpose. And you're gonna look at what that development purpose is and make sure that whoever you're selling it to fulfills that development. Things that are already built, you already know what it is, and so I wouldn't expect that you'd have those same sorts of,
Thank you, Mike.
thank
Yep.
you.
Don't throw that, we might need it for the closed
Yeah,
session.
it might go down again, or maybe I should just move it regularly. So I can clarify those things, but it's really, in my understanding of it, it's really about bare land, and not about, land with real property on it, but we can clarify that.
Yeah, and then, the other thing I had was, now the RFP and the RFQ, those, we've already actually kinda done that with the County Line Estates and that. The third-party proposal, so I guess my concern is that if we're selling a piece of property, or even if somebody comes to us and says, I would like to purchase that piece of property, do we have to provide it to the public?
So under these terms, and this is actually, very applicable, where somebody will come and say, hey, I really wanna use that property. What this says is that we have to post that there's an offer for 45 days, on the website, and if nobody responds, then we can just go ahead and sell it under using the public hearing at that time. But we do have to provide the public an opportunity to access that parcel. So there's sort of two ways: you do the RFP, you advertise it, you look for bids, get it back, or somebody comes to you and says, hey, I really wanna buy that property, and you say, potentially, but we have to post that it's available at this, and then they have 45 days to come and say, no, I really wanna buy that too. And if nobody comes, then you can just follow through with the hearing and sell it.
Okay, because that's the kind of the scenario I had, is say there's somebody that we all like and think would be a great person or company or whatever to own that parcel, but we can't just say, yeah, we have to let the rest of the public know that it is available and.
Right, and so that's, and we, I think in short order, have the opportunity to see how that works, but making sure that we post it, what we have to post, I have to check with the attorney to make sure that, but yes, there's 45 days
Okay.
that we have to make it publicly known that we're intending to sell it, so that anybody else can also make an offer to purchase.
Because I think the County Line Estates, I think that I thought it went smoothly. But I could see, like the proposed industrial park area and some others where maybe now businesses are getting involved, not so much private individuals or housing development type stuff.
Yeah, and so I think that in most cases, we'll end up with that third party, kind of that proposal. We'll have this land, we'll have it available, we'll likely have a minimum bid, and then we're gonna market it. And then a business likely, or could be if we have some individual residential property, but right now we're really talking about having more commercial property. So we'd have a minimum price set, and then somebody would come with us as a proposal, and then we just put up, or if we've already had that minimum price, that's our RFP, and so if somebody meets that. But there's a way then to fulfill that process, so we can keep the public involved, and for transparency, and then also opportunity, so we aren't just selling to whoever we think is,
Yeah.
without giving others the opportunity.
And I'm thinking the others probably feel the same way I do. I don't want somebody to come by and say, hey, you know, I didn't even know about that, and now you sold it to so-and-so, and I never had an opportunity, and I would have done it, and,
Yeah, that's why posting it will take care of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Do you need a motion to table?
I was just gonna say, did you?
I'll move to
Okay.
table.
I'll second.
Tabled. Shar and Steve, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion tabled. Okay, establishment of revolving loan fund.
This would be like a dream come true.
Well, there's some potential right now. We have not specifically allocated the 2026 funding for EDA. And so there's been some discussion for a while that establishing an RLF would be really a good idea. So it's really, right now, it's just about a general discussion. What kinds of things do you feel would be important to include in that kind of policies? And, you know, how we would want to sort of facilitate the start of an RLF if this is a road you want to go down.
My thought is to fund it, is there any kind of grants or something that we can acquire to help fund it? I know, like, I'm thinking about HRDC, you know, where they've gotten, say, COVID money or something, and then once those loans were satisfied, then now that money, they get to loan it out. However, I like that idea of somebody else giving us money so that we can do with what we can, help other businesses or people, individuals out or whatever, and then eventually when it comes back, we get to recirculate that again. I like the money keeps working then.
There's a couple options right now for what's called capitalizing a revolving loan fund. The EDA, Economic Development Administration, is a federal organization. You can request that they fund it. That's one that the HRDC does have. That funding is, you make a case to get a certain amount. You have to have a match as well for whatever you're asking for. And then it goes to that original business and then gets repaid, and then it keeps getting relent out. That particular one always keeps its federal flavor. So a couple of the challenges related to that one is that Davis-Bacon almost always applies, and then some of the other kinds of federal guidelines apply to that one. I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just saying that's what it is. The other particular source that's readily available is through USDA. It's called the Intermediary Relending Program. In that particular one, you ask for a pot of money that you borrow from USDA, and then you loan it out, and you have to make interest payments. The interest is 1%. You make the interest payments while you have that, and then you can lend it and relend it. It's usually a 10-year term or 20-year term. So you keep using that money, and then at the end of the term, you pay all the principal back. So you make interest payments all along, and with the expectation that you loan it out for more than you're borrowing it for, and then you make your recapitalization based on the interest that you charge, and then you have this pool. Eventually, you pay back the principal, and then that's gone, and then you have whatever is left. Those are really the kind of two programs that are available right now. There aren't a lot of sources. We can go down one of those paths. The nice thing is, in the short term, I don't see that there is going to be the $150,000, $200,000 requests. I think it's going to be smaller businesses that just need to fill a gap. And if you use your own resources, you set your own rules. So you can potentially look at some of the other programs that are available that aren't necessarily meeting the niche of what businesses are asking for right now. So that's sort of the pros and cons. And ideally, it would be great if we could find grants to fund that. I'm just not so sure, you know, that we can.
Yeah,
And I'm happy to look, but those are the only two that I'm really aware of right now.
okay.
I think one of the things we would have to talk about is what would be the minimum amount we would want in here before we would even consider loaning it out.
Well, minimum and maximum, both.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. I
Yeah.
somehow figured we'd be so busy loaning it out, it wouldn't be maximum, but,
You know, you don't wanna spend all of it on
no, we don't.
one project,
And
so,
then
yeah.
parameters, who
Yeah.
are we gonna loan to, what are the parameters
Yeah.
about how the money can be used?
Yeah, and then, yeah, like you say, then if you have multiple people requesting and you only have a certain amount of money, then we have to figure out how to
Yep.
prioritize and, but
And are we gonna do business only, or is business plus
Housing,
housing?
yeah.
it'd be great if, we had a generous person like with Deep Lake. I like to dream, you know, I dream big if you're gonna dream,
That's right.
that would be cool. If you're out there listening to us.
And Mary, I'm sure there's many other, this has already been done many places, so you could look at formats of what other counties or EDAs have done.
Yeah, we have, you know, the HRDC has policies that they follow. They have several other smaller entities that they do. The city of Park Rapids, we administer theirs, and so we have their loan policies as well. And then there are other EDAs around that we could get sample policies from to figure out whether or not, you know, we want to adopt some of those.
And Tom, in thinking about where your heart lies, you know, where people would have money to fix up things that they needed in their home, you know, would that be income-based? And so then would the interest rate vary with whatever organization or income level we would loan money to?
Yeah, good question.
I would say that you would want to potentially have two separate, I mean, that if you wanted to do housing rehabilitation, that would be a separate pool from a revolving loan fund that would be geared primarily towards business. Housing could be new housing, but not necessarily owner-occupied rehabilitation, which is a sort of a different animal and would be hard to have combined into, you know, it's really kind of two different purposes. You could have two funds that would do those, but they do have really sort of different requirements and things, so you would want to kind of, you could have one pot of money, but you'd have sort of get different guidelines for each kind of activity under there is what I would suggest, because they are very different. You can't really have this super policy that's gonna fit the whole thing.
And then I'm thinking about, so some people would want money to remodel or fix a furnace or something, but their house might not be worth putting money into. So all those kinds of things would have to be addressed, and then who does the inspection, and who inspects after the work is done? Can they do the work themselves? Do they have to hire someone professional?
Oh, sure, yeah. So as far as this, today, we're not making a final decision, just,
No, I just wanted to, sort of get your sense about that. As I said, we haven't had a specific allocation for, the use of the 2026 funding. And we have had conversations about a revolving loan fund, both the housing and then business. Because what we're finding too is that a business is looking to locate and they're just outside the city limits and there's not a lot of tools available to help them. And so is a county revolving loan fund really primarily towards development and business something that you're interested in and intrigued in? Clearly, you can also establish a owner-occupied or a rehabilitation loan program as well. But again, they are very different animals, and which one are, do you want to do both, or are you more inclined to do one or the other? And then we can bring some examples and have more thoughtful policy discussion. But I didn't want to go down any particular path without getting a little sense of what you're thinking.
I guess I do like the idea too of having, we've talked about that before too, housing rehab stuff. That, like you say, I could see where that could be a separate, so let's do it all.
Yeah, well, we can, just one thing at a time,
Yeah.
The old adage, how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time? So we just have to take one bite and work on that, and then we can move on to the next thing. Yeah, we have looked at the housing rehabilitation and starting out with using the Minnesota Housing Program. They changed their guidelines, which made it a little bit challenging for us to qualify as a lender. Technically, HRDC covers this area, so there is people that, they can access that resource right now. And we haven't been in a position to really create our own pool. So that's another area that we can look at as well.
Okay. So are we done with 7C?
We are.
Great. Now the closed session.
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if we should do the director's report first, because then the closed session, the meeting would just end after that?
Okay.
Or,
Just thinking about Steve being here too.
Sure.
oh, yeah, for the closed session? Yeah,
I
we
have
can do it
like
either
2
way.
seconds for the director's
Okay.
report so that we can do that.
Thank
So the only couple things that I wanted to mention is that closings have been scheduled for both of the properties, buyers. Ted and I signed this morning. One of them was closing today at 9:30. And then the other one is gonna close next week. So all of those properties will have been sold. So that was great. I'm already getting calls and referring people to the potential of buying from homeowners from that, the developer. So really cool there. The other thing that I wanted to mention is although we haven't finalized our 2024 audit, we already have to start thinking about 2025. So I have reached out to Miller McDonald. This would be their 3rd year. Originally, they had done a proposal for 23, 24, and 25. So I reached out to them asking if they're still gonna go ahead and do our audit. Because if they're not, then we're gonna have to do a full RFP for that. So I haven't heard back from him yet, but I just wanna let you know that I'm proactively working on our 2025 audit. And I do not expect it to be hard. So we got through what we needed to. I think that they're wrapping it up and we should be done, and then 2025 should be a breeze. But I just want to let you know those 2 things, so.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So with that, somebody make a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make the motion to go into closed session.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? Do we vote on that even?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll go into closed session. See if Mary knows how to shut things down.